Welcome back to the Atlas Masterclass. Today we're in Spain and we're making a paella. So what it is it's a beautiful rice dish that's served with sofrito. So that sofrito is slow cooked vegetables, cook it down to a paste essentially, and that is all your flavour. And then we've got some chicken as well as some chorizo in that sofrito. I've chopped up some parsley for a garnish. We've got some garlic as well, so garlic in Spanish cuisine, really punchy flavour. And then we've got some zucchini that we're going to put on at the top, at the end, and that will just cook it through just lightly. Finish with some tomato and some lemon, and then, you know, it's just a beautiful, tasty dish. So I'm going to start cooking, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience in Spain when I've eaten this dish so many times, and let's get started. So I start by heating up my pan. I add in a splash of oil, and I just want to coat the bottom of the pan. I don't want to use too much oil because the reason we're searing the chicken off first is to get the sort of skin to render, and then we're actually going to use some of that chicken fat, which is what will cook everything in. So we've got the chicken here, and I just go in piece by piece. I've got it over a nice sort of medium-high heat, and I'm just going to cook it until I've got a little bit of golden colour on one side of the chicken. Take it out, toast off my rice, and then add in the rest of the ingredients. So when I was in Spain, this dish could be served with seafood, it could be served with chicken, it could be served with all different kinds of things, and it traditionally is almost like a peasant style dish, but you know, you can turn it into an absolutely extravagant experience, adding all different seafoods and mixing different things into it. So, you know, it's one of those great dishes at home. So this is an awesome recipe for it, something really nice and something that is simple and just big Spanish flavors. But if you want to add in, you know, different ingredients or really jazz it up, you know, it's incredible what can be done with this dish. So it all just starts, of course, with great ingredients, like all good cooking does. So now our chicken started to, you know, be halfway cooked. So obviously you got raw on one side, but you're getting a nice sear on the other. So that's all we want, is just to sear it off on one side, straight out of the pan, and then we go in with our rice. And you can see all that fat that's left. That's all that chicken fat, which is flavour, and that's what we want to be cooking with. So I go in now with my rice, and this step here is really to toast the rice. So you want to go for a nice sort of little golden toast. It's not going to really cook the rice, it will just get it, start the toasting process, which just adds even more flavour to this lovely dish. And that's why we start with the chicken in the same pan, followed by the rice in sort of the chicken fat, and then of course you add in that sofrito, and it's just so tasty. So now I'm going to add in our grated up garlic. So I just want to toast that off as well with the rice, just adding more flavour. So, you know, there's one thing that Spanish cuisine is famous for, it is all the, you know, flavour, layers of flavour as well when you're adding things at different times. You know, the toasting of the rice, the chicken fat, all those beautiful things. And then I add in our sofrito as well. So I'll include a recipe for the sofrito down the bottom, but it's quite a simple mixture. You got things like tomato, you'll have onion, capsicum, and of course some chorizo. So they love eating, in Spain, they love eating a lot of different pork products. They're so famous for that Iberico jamón, and chorizo is one of my all-time guilty pleasures to enjoy. So I love cooking with it. It adds such a big flavour to everything you're making when the sort of, you know, paprika almost melts out and renders out of that chorizo. It's just beyond delicious. So like so. That's just warming up, and now I'm going to add in some water. So with the water, it's one of those things, you just want to essentially cover the rice, and you can always, with the paella, you can always add more. So I'd suggest get it to where you want it to be, i.e. getting all the rice off the side of the pan. And as always, rice does soak up water. So I'm just going to just slightly cover it. I'm going to turn it right down now. Add a little bit more, and then I'm going to add my chicken back in. So you'll see that red colour on top of the paella, and that's exactly what we want. So add those chicken in, presentation side up, more of that chicken fat. There we are. And now I turn it up just to sort of, you know, a low heat. And then this method here, this is called a cartouche. So it's a piece of baking paper I use almost as a lid, and that will just keep some of that moisture in. If you want to use a lid, it's equally the same, but I just cut a circle of baking paper to put that on top, and I can sort of see through and see how it's cooking. So the trick is with the paella, is you've coated the rice in the fat, you want to not move it at this point. So you've built the beautiful dish, you leave it, put the chicken in, and then you want to cover it with either a lid or a cartouche, let it cook slowly, and you want to form a crust on the bottom. And if you get it right, you really get that crust, and it makes such a huge difference to the eating experience. You have the soft rice, beautiful chicken, the punchiness of that chorizo, and then of course that beautiful rice crisp along the bottom. So now I take the baking paper off for a second, or the lid if you're using a lid, and then I'm just going to put our zucchinis in. So the rice, as you start to see, it will definitely start to look cooked, and you'll be able to see the grain is almost sort of translucent. That's how you know it's ready. So I just like to present the zucchini in a nice way. You can see it's bubbling away slowly, which means it's just cooking slowly, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to get a bit of a crust at the bottom, and then I go back on with the baking paper, give it about 5 more minutes, let the zucchini just start to cook. You do want them to have a nice bit of texture, and then we're ready to serve the dish. So now I'm going to check our paella. So I take the lid off, and I'm going to get rid of that at this stage. So the zucchini is there. I can see the rice is cooked. It's bubbling away nicely. So it's still got a bit of liquid in it, which is great because you want to, you don't want the dish to be dry. And all in all, that's probably taken about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on the size that you're making. And you'll just find as well with this dish that you want to get it sort of nice and crispy on the bottom. So I recommend take your time to do that. There's no point rushing such a beautiful dish. And I like to have a feel as well, so I can really feel that crust. Let's see if I can pull some off. So it's quite hard to see, but you can see these nice darker bits from the bottom, so that's going to give so much flavour to this dish. So we've got our rice cooked, our zucchinis cooked through, the chicken of course. Now I just like to finish with a bit of chopped tomato, just for some freshness. It is a tomato base as well. It just really adds a lot to the dish. And of course we just finished with some parsley. They love some chopped herbs in Spain. That to me is real Spanish cooking. Squeeze a lemon, and there we are. Fabulous dish, something that the whole family will definitely enjoy. A dish I'm sure you've tried before, but may not have made in your own home. Traditionally using a paella pan, so a really thin base pan will help. This pan's quite thin, so you get a similar experience. But if you don't have that, you can still get a very similar result using whatever you have at home. And just have some fun with this dish. Take your time, cook it low and slow, and then eat it quickly.